Hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm stopping by to talk about basic things today that you need to know. For example, you need to know how to deal with stress. Most of you don't know how to deal with stress properly. And the reason you don't know how is because no one's ever taught you. And so I'm going to do that today, at least make a start at it. But actually, I can teach you how to do it today. So the first thing I want to say is that most people are basically in a hypnotic trance all the time. It varies, sometimes lighter, sometimes deeper, but basically they are reactive to things on the outside. And they are cut off or estranged from or removed from or distant from internal promptings, internal guidance, internal wisdom. Now, I'm going to give you an example of how most people are all the time. And to do so, I'm going to just use the classic example of a person, a classic example of stage hypnosis. You've all seen it in Las Vegas or on YouTube or maybe at a high school auditorium. They had a gathering. They brought in hypnotists. It was always good fun. Or maybe at a nightclub. You've seen it. And you know they pick the people who are most easily hypnotized. They bring them up to the stage. They usually have a few chairs. And they have them all hypnotized. And then they have them do various things. For example, they'll tell one person, this is an example I give all the time, but I actually saw it. You can see it on YouTube. They told one person that he's Elvis Presley. And they handed him a broom and the music, and they said, when the music starts, that'll be the cue. You will become Elvis Presley. Well, the music started, and he jumped up and started dancing around, and he used the broom like a guitar. And he really thought he was Elvis Presley. So I'm sure you've seen that sort of thing. Somebody is told that the room is very, 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 very hot. It's very stuffy. And you see them, trying to open their collar, and you see them with a handkerchief, wiping their brow, and they feel really hot, but it's not hot. But they really, truly believe that it's hot. Okay, so you've seen that. So let's say you are looking at that person on the stage, and you say, well, the person who thinks he's Elvis Presley, or it could be something else. You could say, when you hear the snap of my fingers, then you will think that you are an expert on gardening, the world's greatest expert on gardening. And so later the hypnotist snaps his fingers and asks the person who's about gardening, and he starts to come up with answers that are just amaze you, as if he really were, and he thinks he's the world's greatest expert on gardening, you see? But now here's the point I want to make. When you look at that person, would you say that he's a hypocrite? No, you wouldn't say he's a hypocrite. She said he's not a hypocrite, he's just hypnotized. All right, now look all around you. There's a person who thinks she's really who thinks she's really nice. She's really a good person, but you can see that she's really not that great of a person, and so you say she's a hypocrite. Or there's a person who's talking about how you should do this or that and how to save money and so forth, but you know that they really don't do it in their own life, and so they're a hypocrite. Or there's a person who said he's a Christian. Okay, but you see that he smokes cigarettes and like that, and you think, well, he's a hypocrite. All right. So I say to you, well, no, maybe he's not a hypocrite. She's not a hypocrite. They're just hypnotized. See how that changes your Thoughts about them? Well, you see a bunch of kids doing bad things. Are they bad kids? Or are they under the influence of the peer group and the media and entertainment, and they're acting like they think they should act to gain the approval of the group? Who is their hypnotist? That's their authority. So on the stage, it's the hypnotist. But out in life, who's the hypnotist? It's your mom. It's your dad when you were little. It's the expert. It's somebody with a white coat on. It's a teacher. It's a really cool kid at school. He becomes your hypnotist. He's the one that you look up to and emulate and follow and try to please. See? So a lot of times people act like they're told to act, or when the hypnotist is not around and something sets them off, then they act, some cue sets them off. So it's like a situation that they were in before, or it's like someone who was their authority before. Then they act like they think they're supposed to act, like they're expected to act. You see? All right. So now here's the thing. Have you been able to follow me? Hopefully. This is good stuff now. This is very simple. I've only been going for about 7 minutes. And you could watch this again and again and again and again. And each time you could think about something in your life or go out and then you'd notice, oh, I'm doing this. Why am I doing this? Or that person. Why? See? Now, there was a hypnotist in their life, just as there have been hypnotists in your life and there are right now. So anyway, the average person, when they were a little child, somebody yelled at them, somebody screamed at them, somebody upset them, somebody pulled on their heartstrings, somebody became their authority, became their hypnotist. And then they then acted, they then did what was suggested. Their subconscious mind then did what they were told, what they were directed to do. And then to please that person, they did what they thought they were expected to do. You understand? Just like the person on stage. Now, in the scene of the first time that somebody upset you, you burned a toast, and your mom came and she said, "You stupid, you never do anything right. You're a burden to me. Why can't you be like your sister? She's just smart. She never messes up. I have enough problems as it is. I can hardly make ends meet. Your father's no good, and he left or he doesn't make enough money. He's not like other men that can make more money. He's no good. You're going to be just like him. You're no good either." It was a terrible trauma. The things that she said, they were so vicious, and you hated her. You hated her. Well, unfortunately, the hate and the resentment was the reaction, the response that allowed those suggestions to get into your mind. And it was a huge drama scene. Of course, she created, of course, what was in her created it. It wasn't even her. See, that's the other thing you have to understand. It wasn't even her. It was what was in her. Wanted you to become upset and wanted to ruin you and in the guise of helping you, it wanted to ruin you. Not her, but what was in her. And it also, what was I going to say? I forgot. Oh, and it wanted you to hate her because hate is the sin that separates you from your inner ground of good. All right. So now in that trauma scene, there was the burning toast. So now 20 years later, there you are, and you accidentally burned the toast. And so what happens? You get really angry. You get angry at that toast, the toaster, because it seems to confirm the suggestions and the dire predictions that she made about you. So you hate the toaster. You resent the toaster. And you transfer your anger and resentment toward your mom to that toaster. So now you resent the toaster. You see how that works? But it sets you off and you become emotional. So you get really, really upset at the toaster, and then now you're upset, you go out in the world, you mess something else up, and you get upset at that. And so now you have these emotions, anger, upset, your blood pressure goes up, your tummy hurts, your blood chemistry changes. All of these changes occur because of your upset. You get a headache. See what I mean? And you're tense and you're nervous. All right. So how should we live? Let's put aside the traumas for a moment. We'll have to talk about how to deal with those, the memories of those traumas and the emotions. But first, let's just keep it very simple. The ideal spiritual person responds to, well, instead of things on the outside and people on the outside being hypnotic, and to which the person responds, instead of seeing the hypnotist as the authority, or the professor as the authority, or teacher as the authority, or your mom as the authority, or, of course, we have to honor our parents, see? And respect them. You have to respect them if they're respectable, but if they're not respectable, you don't have to respect them, but just don't hate them. Don't resent them, okay? But they were all your authorities, and they were messed up too. See, somebody did a number on them, so don't hate them. So what was I going to say? So instead of all of those things on the outside being your authorities, being the things that visual cues that were in the scene of the trauma. Remember I talked about the toaster? Okay, so in the scene of the trauma scene where there was a toaster, there was also your mom yelling at you, and then there was, I don't know, the hum of the refrigerator. Your mind photographs all that stuff. And then later in life, 20 years later, there's the hum of the refrigerator, and you feel a little bit anxious, and you feel a little bit upset because it was in the scene of the trauma that involved the toast burning and your mom yelling at you. You understand? So now all of these things control you, move you, stimulate you, prod you, goad you, excite you, exasperate you, irritate you, all of these responses. The ideal spiritual person responds to, see, God is its authority. And God, through intuition, through conscience, see, so makes his will known. So the ideal person so here's the other part. This is important. I'm running out of time. People on the stage, when you see the other ones on the stage, they're usually a row of chairs, and they're all sitting there, and one of them is the one that's doing, the whatever the hypnotist wants him to do. Meanwhile, the other ones are just sitting there waiting. But if you watch them very carefully, you will see that they're watching the hypnotist and waiting for their mind is waiting for directions from him. They're waiting to be told what to do, to be directed. And so they wait, and then he comes to them, and then they do you see what I mean? So they're waiting for direction. They're very calm, very mild. They're just sitting there, but they're waiting for direction. So the ideal spiritual person, so you go out, so if you're hypnotized, you don't have any motivation. You have to wait for something to upset you, someone to irritate you. You have to wait for a deadline. You even have to make a deadline, or you have to procrastinate until it becomes such a pressure that you're forced to do it because you don't really want to do it. You don't really have any motivation to do it other than the prod of the pressure, see, of it. In your hypnotized state, you need something to tell you, something to direct you, to motivate you, to stimulate you, like the snap of the fingers. You need something to make you function. You see? So, the ideal spiritual person, on the other hand, waits upon God. And when situations arise, the ideal spiritual person doesn't react to them, doesn't become upset. The person wonders, watches, and waits for internal direction, where he sees what is wise or what is right, and then he can simply do what's right or wise, right or wise. Or there is a delicate internal prompting, a gentle prompting from intuition to move in a certain way, you see, and the person moves in that way. So there you are sitting there. Here comes your child with a question, an issue. Here comes a loved one with an issue. And they present the issue, and you honestly don't know what to say. You don't know what to do. You want to do the right thing, but you don't know what it is, and you wait. And then all of a sudden, something comes to you, something that is somehow has wisdom and love in it, and it comes to you from intuition, and you move. And what is the energy that you move with? Well, it's an invisible, and it's agape love. That's about the only way I can put it. It's an energy from God through you. And you move almost effortlessly. You don't have to drum up emotion like you do when you react to the things of the world and the people of the world and the hypnotists of the world. You need to then drum up emotion, anger, fear, upset, irritation. See? Worry. So you have to dredge those up. Impatience. See? And you move with those. But when you move with those kind of energies, it's a stress, isn't it? And then what? You become tense. You become drained. Tense and drained at the same time. And tense, the only relief you know is the relief of tension, in pleasure, in escape. And so then your only motivation is to find a marijuana cigarette or a glass of alcohol or a video to watch or something. See, to drain away the tension. So that's no way to live. So your authority should be what you know in your heart is right. Conscious intuition, which is from God. And then you will have the motivation to move, which will be you see what is right, you see what is wise, or a delicate prompting to move in one way or another, or something delicately restrains you so that your timing is a little different, and then you move gracefully, wisely, and through life. Okay? So there you have it in a nutshell. So once again, my book, Waking Up from a Lifetime of Hypnosis, is rather good, although I'm writing a new book. It's going to be even better. I mean, it was, but in the meantime, get Waking Up from a Lifetime of Hypnosis. You can get it on Amazon. Just what you do is you go to Amazon, and then in the search bar up at Amazon, you just type in Roland Trujillo, and then not only do you get my books, my podcasts appear also. But anyway, you'll see the books there. So that would be a very good book to get, that one. Yeah, that would be the one. So I've outlined it for you. You might want to listen to this or watch this again, so you can begin to see. All right, so the meditation that I have. So here's the capstone. The meditation that I have, or my hand-warming exercise, but let's talk about the meditation. It's like 8 minutes long. It is a way to get started, to stand back. See, once you go through life hypnotized, so let's again go back. So here's the average person, like you, always in some state of hypnosis, reacting to all the cues around them, becoming upset and emotional, saying the wrong thing, and then doing things they were programmed to do when they were hypnotized as a kid when somebody upset them. So you do all these contradictory, self-defeating things, and you wonder, what's going on? Working at cross purposes? What'd I say that for? What'd I do that for? And you're tense all the time, and so you have to find a way to start to wake up from that state. That's a state. Okay, a state of being, a state of mind. And a good way to start waking up is just to be able to sit quietly and become aware of your hands, so that your hands begin to tingle a little bit. And thereby a rapport is established between your conscious mind through your subconscious to your body. Your conscious mind is now directing its attention, giving its attention to your head, okay? So that is important to establish that rapport, because your conscious mind, when you're not hypnotized, when you're not pulled down into the thought processes. See, when you become upset, you're separated from wisdom and understanding and intuition and common sense, and you fall down into rationale, and you fall into the imagination, into thoughts, and then images drive thoughts, and thoughts images, and you operate just like an animal. And the subconscious mind then receives these directions and suggestions from the outside, and it carries them out. You need to so your conscious mind must be the one, again, that rules. With wisdom, with understanding which comes from above. You don't have to study. See, study is more concentration, more fixation. It'll put you back in that hypnotic trance again. So the other thing is that when we become hypnotized, the hypnotist often starts to work on us through the imagination, doesn't he or doesn't she? They want you to paint a word picture paint word pictures that in your mind you're imagining something, and they ask you to step into that imaginary picture that you constructed in your mind, and you're hypnotized. And then they are in charge of it, of the whole thing. See, they're like the director of the virtual play going on in your mind. But you're under their sway. And then they can tell you scary things, like when you were a little kid, your parents, they scared you. They told you scary things about what would happen if you didn't behave or something, and you pictured it in your mind and you became scared, see? All right. So you must also now find a way to step back from the imagination and being lost in thoughts. And the other part of the meditation, it does all of this, it gets started in only 8 minutes, is when you sit quietly and you close your eyes and you watch the little pixels of light. You look at the little pixels of light on the inside of your eyelids. Now you're outside of imagination. You're above thought, above imagination. You're in the present moment. Okay, you can hear the birds singing and the sound of cars going by on the street. You're aware of your hand, like I said, and you're not lost in thoughts. And then as you're in this nice state, you're becoming awake. You're coming out of the hypnosis. And then sometimes thoughts will rise and they'll try to snatch you and pull you back down into them, won't they? It'll happen over and over and over again for years and years and years. But each time you just snap out. But the meditation gives you the power to snap out. See, you'll fall into some thought. You're floating away with a daydream or thinking about what happened yesterday or something, and all of a sudden you notice that you were lost in a thought. Now you're no longer lost in a thought. You're back in the present again. You're awake. You're aware. You're not hypnotized, and you have access to intuition. It's beautiful.